Call the meeting to order. We have approval of minutes for June 4th, 2018 City Council meeting. Any questions, corrections, additions?
I have a correction to make. It states that I wasn't at the last meeting. I just wanted to see if we could just update that and post that I did show up at the end for the executive session.
It does at the end of the minutes. It does state in there where you showed up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for
Okay.
last meeting.
Seconded.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion carries. We'll go to the June 2018 financial report.
The only thing I wanted to discuss is what I was talking with you about earlier, Joe, and I'll just
Okay.
come into the office and we'll talk about that.
All righty. Yeah, we can sit down and go over it, Shannon. Look at it. Anything else? Motion to approve? Thank you, Ted. Got a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Go to mayor's open remarks. Really don't have anything special tonight. Thank everyone for being here. Hope everyone has a safe and happy 4th of July. That'll take us to public comment. Anybody want to come forward for public comment?
Guess I'll stand here, correct? I don't know where to stand right here. I'm actually here on behalf of Chillowich Apartments, which is within our city of LaGrange. Actually, I'm here because they are non-payment of the trash. The trash is all over the place. It's a very embarrassing to our city, I think, of LaGrange that they have let it gone this far. You cannot contact anyone. No one knows who owns what and different ones. I've been there a year, and it's sold twice. We went through 3 or 4 managers. We do have a manager now who was once the maintenance guy, who is doing his best, but it's a long way from being best. We've had our water cut off. I've been there a year. It's been cut off 3 times due to non-payment. I called today because the trash is overflowing and I know it's going to be all over the place, and they told me that they could not do anything for me because of non-payment. It's just
So management is not paying the bills. Is that what you're saying?
management or the owners or whoever writes the checks are not complying with that. When I first moved there, it was horrible. I'm not used to apartment living. I've lived in, on farms or in a house. Grew up here, right behind here. I know most of you all. I was a kid then, but I'm 60 years old now, and we've been through a whole lot in 1 year there. And it's gotten better. The drug situation was off the charts at the beginning. Our police department has worked constantly over it, and finally the evictions started, and they did evict the ones that were, I believe, in illegal activity. But now they say they can't even evict anyone, regardless of what you do. I guess you don't really have to pay rent if you don't want to. You can just live there free. because they no longer have attorneys where they did not pay their attorneys, the apartment complex. They don't pay anyone. There has been people that has lived there, I heard, a year without even paying anything.
Sound like bad management to me.
It's terrible. It is very, very terrible. It's a shame, actually, that we have, and when it was first built, it was a beautiful place. Not just anybody could get in there. Now you can just walk in and they'll let you live there free if you want, I guess. That's what I'm hearing. It's a dangerous place too, by the way. I mean, you gotta watch your back.
So
I don't
you
want to
don't,
go into too much details, but it was bad at one time, especially on November 28th when my roommate was beaten severely in front of our apartment door. Severely enough to where he had to be into U of L hospital and by a tenant that was in the next building. And the only reason that occurred is Gary had asked him to take his marijuana smoking because there was kids running around up to his building. He threw his 16-ounce beer and went to whooping on Gary. He broke every bone in his face. And then also he was in a wreck 4 years ago and he's all titanium across here. And they just kicked him $16,000 worth of going back in and redoing all of this. I don't know what I'm asking you all for. Maybe some type of help to see that the bills maybe at least get paid, or
I don't know as far as,
the code enforcement's been involved.
Okay, that's what I was just gonna ask,
The
if
Oldham
code
County Health
enforcement.
Department is being involved, and it just seems like they don't care who gets involved. It's gonna stay that way and it's gonna be ran that way. But to me, there's got to be something different.
so your manager over there, you said is the maintenance man now?
He is now.
And he lives there as well?
No, he does not.
No?
He lives in Frankfurt. And he comes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And he is doing the best he can, but he was left with just a mess is what he was left with. And he's trying to straighten it out.
Does he have a contact number?
Yes, he does. I have a number for him, a text number, and I text him today because right now in my living room is I've got a bucket sitting underneath from where the girl upstairs, or through a pipe, they say condensation or whatever it is from air conditioning. It's about this big in my ceiling and it's leaking, and I thought they would come today, and I texted him and I said, "Not today, huh?" And he said, "No, first, Ben, the maintenance man, will be there first thing in the morning." Then I heard that they weren't going to pick the trash up because of non-payment. And so I texted him back and I asked him to ask Connie what to do with our trash since they weren't going to pick it up due to non-payment. And he never texted me back. Some things they want to hear and some things they don't. So,
maybe the last time when Dave and them come out, or the apartment paid.
I'm sorry, what apartment complex was this?
Chillowich Apartments, and it's out Jericho Road, right before the church.
Okay.
When it was first built, it was a beautiful place, and then it just went, and I thought it was still that way when I got out of the hospital. I had throat surgery, and I couldn't go back to where I was living. So I went there, and 1 year of constant terror, just unreal.
Anybody on the council got any suggestions?
Anything would be helpful.
I guess I'm just thinking maybe at the ordinance committee meeting with Stephanie there, we could kind of get more of a history from her and find out, I'm not aware if there's, I mean, we've been working on an ordinance to be able to track down owners of rental properties because of situations similar to this. And I know we've been working on or we just recently passed an ordinance with the Grange water regarding non-payment. So I'm just wondering if during ordinance committee, we might be able to work with Stephanie to find out what's missing that we can't enforce here.
Right. I locked this in my mind because Officer Adams, I believe it was, I don't know exactly. It's like, I think it's Officer Adams. I know them all, but they all confuse me. But he told me to be sure and ask for a nuisance ordinance. What he meant, I
Okay.
don't know, but he said that definitely.
We've got a nuisance
We
ordinance.
have
do
a
we-
nuisance
We
order.
have a
yeah.
nuisance ordinance.
Okay, well, I thought maybe so, but he said be sure and say that, Terry, when you go. So I said it. I'm nervous. I'm nervous.
No,
So
you're
the-
fine.
So the, what was maintenance man is now manager? Is that what you
Yes.
said?
And then his cousin is now the
Maintenance
maintenance man.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then I've noticed that in some apartments, they have families of like 3 or 4, and now they're renting empty units to some of those are leaving. They're all still in the same clique, but they're in different apartments now.
Isn't there a housing authority, like state laws for apartment owners that they have to abide by?
I don't know. We
That I
look-
don't know. I think I think getting Stephanie here and talking to her during an ordinance meeting might be the best, and seeing why can't we start finding them under the nuisance ordinance, especially with the garbage being an issue.
We may
and-
need to update our ordinance to non-payment of trash now instead of just water and electric,
Yeah.
because we didn't think of that.
Yeah, thank you. It's terrible, it really is.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're having to deal with that. That's
Would you
not-
be able to get us the contact number?
Yes, I will. I have a number and I have her extension. Her name is Connie. Good luck on her calling you back.
And
I
she's
met her
and
two-
she's the owner?
No, she works for the owner, to my knowledge. I met her 2 months ago, and I told her a little bit about it, and I said, I'm looking for a place. And she said, oh, please, just give us time.
Oh, you did.
Well, it's been 8 weeks, and I haven't seen her again. And time for what? I mean,
Do you know if they have other apartments?
yes, they do. They have one in Shelbyville. I do not know the name of it. And if I'm not mistaken, Frankfurt.
When you moved in, did you actually sign a lease?
I did, and it's been a year last month in May, and I told them nicely not to ask me to sign a lease because I'm not signing a lease, and they said no more to me about it.
So what's Connie? Connie's not,
She's affiliated with, there's
Owner.
3 letters. KCS is the owners, and, or K something. I'll have to really get into that. And there's been ones that have been evicted, but they come at night in other people's apartments and do their thing. And they're not supposed to be on the property, but no one knows their last names. No one knows anything about them, just that they're trouble. And they are.
maybe you can get us the information and
I
they
certainly
can
will.
get it to, then we can take it, code enforcement's on vacation this week, but
Okay,
we can get all that information. Maybe y'all can get together and,
yeah.
So you
She's
need
always
Con-
at our ordinance meetings.
You need Connie's number and her extension number. Okay. You did? So you've already contacted Connie. It's a 9-something area code? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, it won't do, I'm sorry to say, but okay,
might get the manager's number too, whoever he is,
okay,
ex-maintenance manager.
yes.
Yeah,
I
Connie and
have
that
his
number.
text number,
Maybe we can get something.
so. Okay.
Thanks for letting us know, and
Do
I'm
you have-
sorry you're
You
dealing
all.
with that.
I appreciate anything that you do.
Do you happen to know,
apartment complex.
sorry, if it's Section 8 housing?
It is.
Okay.
It is, and I will tell you, 20 years ago, I applied for Kentucky Housing. 20 years ago. And just last year, right before I moved, I got accepted for Kentucky Housing. So I am one of the Kentucky Housings people, I guess. I wasn't going to take it, but I figured if they waited 20 years to get in touch with me, I'm going to take it, any help I can get. I'm not 20 years old anymore. I'm 60. So there's a difference. And it helps me, but not anybody will take that. And that doesn't mean, and they say, well, that's how come it fell apart, is they started letting Kentucky Housing people in and just any, that's not true. That's not true.
Hey, Terry, does Mozart Management sound familiar?
No, it doesn't. It's three letters, Steph, and I will see that you get them.
Okay, because it says Chilliwich Building Contact, and it says Mozart Management. I didn't know if that sounded familiar to you.
I also heard of a man in Louisville is part owner or something to do with it, and I believe Stephanie from Code Enforcement knows who that might be.
Okay.
I think. I'm not for sure.
We'll do a follow-up on it when she gets back.
Thank you
Meanwhile,
all
we
for
can
your
be looking at
time.
it,
I
so.
appreciate it. I'm no longer nervous, so I can leave now. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Terry.
you.
Bye.
We'll look into it.
That's kind of why I was asking about that.
We'll go to the Grange Utilities. Y'all have any questions? Somebody be here to answer anything y'all want to know on the Grange Utility report. Karen, Grange Main Street report.
You have my report, so you can call me if you have any questions on that. But I would like to talk about the fact that on July 14th, it's actually the second Saturday of every month, that the History Center has a barnyard fun during the farmers market from 10 to 12. And so to just get that word out there, that the kids have an activity that they can go to while their parents are over at the farmers market, just another added. And they're using the new Dahlgren barn for that. Also, there is on July 21st, Sullivan County Day. I know that's a surprise to everybody. It always gets here before we realize it. But the farmers market is going to be set up on Main Street down at the other end there at in the 200 block, instead of having to be gone completely. So people will be able to visit. We're going to have at least 17 vendors, possibly more that day. Then we're also looking for ghost tour guides. So if you know of anybody that is outgoing and they like theatrics, we need some guides for our fall tours. And we have they'll need to study their scripts, so we need to get them fairly quickly. They can sign up Oldham County Day, or they can call me anytime. And then I got to talk to a couple that they're looking at opening a new business on Main Street today. So we hopefully will be able to say name and everything by next month, but they're going to rent the 100 building there on the corner where the Utopia studio was. So that's exciting. We'll be full in that block then. And I will be sending them your all's direction as soon as they decide on their name and be able to I know they've already started talking about a liquor license, so to give you a little tip. Is there anything else?
Is the ghost tour, is that a volunteer position?
It is. They do get a stipend, $1 for each person they take on the tour, but
Okay.
for the most part.
Okay, and it's September and October?
Actually, it's just October now.
Okay.
But we run 3 nights now instead of just 2.
Okay.
So we have 5 tours a week.
So typically Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or?
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 1 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, and 2 on Saturday
Okay,
evenings. They start at 7, so there's a 7 and 7:30 tour. About a 3-hour commitment, though, by the time they get ready. Anything else? Okay.
Any questions for Karen?
Could you tell us who all is on the Green Space Committee?
Yes, it is, the city council members are Stephanie and Ann. Then we have David Bazanis. We have Jeremy Esposito. Nancy Griffin. Hope Gardner from the Park Board. Is everybody right?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and also, just a reminder that the winery tasting rooms opened, and so they are very thankful that the city supported them so well, and the ribbon cutting went really well. I think that's on, but hopefully they'll start having music on Friday nights there, if not this Friday, but next Friday. They have wine down Wednesdays, so.
They were booming last Saturday just with the guitar music they had or whatever. It was packed.
It's good. We're, hopefully, we're getting to be a music venue, at least on Friday nights. Big R's and Shannon's, they have music usually. We have music sometimes on the porch there. And then we have the trackside tunes, but then they'll have music so people can come and stay in LaGrange now on Friday nights and enjoy it.
Are some of the shops staying open later on Friday nights now?
Yes. And we also have a good number open on Sundays now, too.
Fantastic.
Right? Thank you all.
Thank you, Karen, for what you do for us. We have the Board of Adjustments very seldom meets. In the last few months, they've been meeting regularly, and I've only got 3 members showing up. And if one of them is out, there is an opening. If one of them is out, they won't have a quorum. They have another meeting in July, so I wanted to appoint Mary Ann Smith to the Board of Adjustments. If y'all will make a motion, prove that. I know Mary Ann will be there. I have Keith Smith, Dave Hutchison, and Jimmy Roberts are the regulars that's showing up. If one of them, something was to happen, then they wouldn't have a quorum, so I need the other position filled.
Make a motion to appoint Mary Ann Smith to the Board of Adjustments.
Thank you, Trey.
Second.
Thank you, Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank y'all. Motion carries. I need an introduction on ordinance 9, 2018. Trey, you want to do that for us?
I'll introduce ordinance 9-2018 for first reading, and ordinance amending 52.55 on water services rates.
Okay, ordinance 5255 is the ordinance amends the section of Part 52 of the Code of Ordinance. Water rates are increased, specific fees are increased, and now established in the amending ordinance 52.55. Actually, the 2 sheets in the back are that's actually the ordinance of 52 of, that you see on the back 2 pages. So we have in the first reading July 2nd. We'll have public hearing, second reading on August the 6th. We have Item 10, we have the second reading and public hearing of ordinance 8, 2018, an ordinance adopting revisions and updates for certain sections of the existing Oldham County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. Whereas the city of Grange has authority pursuant to the provisions of Kentucky Revised Statute 83 and 100 and other applicable Kentucky law to adopt and approve revisions to the comprehensive zoning ordinance. Whereas Oldham County Planning and Zoning Commission and Oldham County Fiscal Court has recommended adoption of certain revisions to the existing comprehensive zoning ordinance. See County Ordinance Number KOC 16-920-345 and Planning and Zoning Commission minutes of Tuesday, February 27th. And now, therefore, it being enacted and ordained by the city of Grange, Kentucky, as followed, that the revisions to the comprehensive zoning plan ordinance of the affected sections division as stated in the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes of February 27, 2018, are hereby adopted and approved. The affected sections and divisions are stated in the aforementioned minutes and are attached hereto as an exhibit, and the language used to replace, amend, or add to the sections and divisions described in that ordinance are fully adopted, approved, and incorporated as if set out in its entirety herein. The ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and approving publication according to law. First reading was June the 4th. Its second reading, July the 2nd, 2018. So, do we have a motion on ordinance 8, series 2018?
Motion to approve ordinance 8, series 2018.
Thank you, Trey.
Second.
Thank you, Shannon. We need a motion to go in public hearing.
Motion for public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We're now in public hearing. Jim, you want to come forward if they have any questions, or I don't know if you want to kind of make there's a lot to cover.
There's a lot to cover, and you've been going through the agenda this evening, Mayor, pretty quickly, and we can slow that right down if you want me to. But thank you all
Well-
for letting me be here. Jim Urban.
Jim, I don't know if they got any questions. Of course, they've had this in their packet since last month. There's a lot to take in. I know when it first came out online and I started reading it, and I read a little bit every day, and so there's a lot to absorb. But
There is.
basically, what I like to do is kind of look and see who the commissioner was present and what their remarks were, in y'all's public hearing. And, then if there's any other questions, because I kind of look like it was carried unanimous in the, is that what I'm looking at?
The Planning Commission level, yes. Mhm.
No public comment in y'all's meeting?
Not in the Planning Commission meeting. We did have public hearing on a Saturday morning, February 10th, and we had quite a good group here that was in this room, and we had comments during that. But over the course of the development of these recommendations, we did have study review committee meetings. We've had probably 18 of them, I think, on these particular subjects altogether. Fiscal Court did adopt the recommendations, and this is your second reading, and tonight also is the second reading at Pee Wee Valley. Crestwood they do it a little differently. Their first reading is the public hearing. They had that meeting, let's see, it was on June 13th. Their second reading will be next week, and that is just, again, to adopt the ordinance. They've already had their public hearing.
If y'all have got any question for Jim, I'm sure he'll
Mayor, if I might, simply, again, this is
You-
repeal and replace parts of our zoning ordinance. There are 4 subjects in the zoning ordinance and 1 in the subdivision regulations, school capacity ordinance, the landscape regulations, short-term rentals, maximum height regulations, and then there's Article 3 of the subdivision regulations. So if you all wanted to either, I can give you a brief overview, or you can ask questions. I think it's again, like the mayor said, it's a lot of information to digest. We've gone over it in all these public meetings, and think we've come up with good recommendations.
Jim, can you just go over and give us kind of a summary overview as you go through it? Would that be okay without taking too long?
Sure, yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll go subject by subject. So the first subject is the school capacity ordinance. In the past, we've had a capacity planning since the year 2000, when we adopted the comprehensive plan. We, with capacity planning, have set regulations for certain infrastructure, and school capacity is one of those infrastructures. In the past, the requirement was that a developer, if there was going to be an impact on schools, they had to mitigate by phasing their development. So they could get up to 40 building permits per year. And what we realized was that when they got that approval at the Planning Commission, their 40 started at that time. So they hadn't even developed construction plans or developed the roads, and they already had 40 permits. So it really wasn't helping the Board of Education to filter in students from proposed residential development. So we revised that, and again, we had a lot of support actually from the building community. They're the ones that helped us come up with a number. So the most significant part of the school capacity ordinance are these charts. And what I got to tell you is we found that we're going to eliminate this one, which is for multifamily, because you issue 1 building permit and you could get 8, 10, or 12 units in one building. So that really didn't, this chart really doesn't help. So the one on the left is really the one working with the Board of Education. Michael Williams, who is their pupil personnel representative, came up with a way of looking at the collective capacity from kindergarten all the way up through high school. So they add actually all of the student population for all grades into the feeder schools. So as an example, and the middle column is really the important one, he created this factor, working back and forth with us and looking at student population, that if you had, all schools were at 95% of the capacity, you could get 35 building permits. And again, that reduced from 40 down to 35. And again, working with everybody on those numbers, and I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit. The maximum amount of building permits you could get in a year from each individual subdivision would be 35. And if you go down, it's easier to look at the green, which is 100. If a school was at 100% capacity by applying this factor of 9.935, and don't ask me how he got it, he went back and forth in these numbers to work out how we could come up with a formula that reduces the permits the more that you get closer to 100 or over 100. So at 100, you would only get 33 building permits. If the total school capacity was 110, you would only get 23 building permits per year. And you can see it goes down to a point where you only get 15, which we created a minimum amount of 15. So the biggest question is, what happens if they, like right now, they're going through a rebalancing of the schools. If it changes the school capacity, then you could potentially get more building permits, up to 35. If you were given, let's say you were at one of the schools and you only get 23, and we actually haven't had one, but this is just an example, and they built a new school, and that changed everybody's capacity in the schools, that development still only gets 23 building permits per year, but they could come and ask for the Planning Commission to amend it, their binding elements, and actually increase the number of permits. Now, we did a study on how many subdivisions actually get more than 30 building permits, and there was one back in 2006, at kind of the height of the building industry, when they got 33 permits in 1 year. So by the time you go through construction of the roads and construction of the houses, again, the building community felt that 35 was a good starting number. So that's really, Mr. Taylor, a quick run-through of the school capacity. We did change some of the language. I can go over that, but there were some parts of the regulations that weren't written very well. So we've done everything from look at grammar, spelling, revise some of the definitions as we went along. And so that's the whole package. I will show you one example of some of the text that we've changed. And this is in relation to the phasing, and it doesn't really show up in red, but item number D is actually references this worksheet that I just showed you. So the campus being elementary, middle, and high school that would serve that proposed development, and that's not in our current regulations. So we looked at this a lot more comprehensively when we looked at the school capacity ordinance. I'm going to show you this too, because this is continuation of that part D. First of all, I mentioned that we establish those number of permits by binding element when we review a proposed development plan. And again, this is really for residential development, so commercial developments don't put any students into the schools. And that you can petition. One of the things that the Board of Education does on a regular basis, usually in January or February, is they give us a report on the 3, 5, and 10-year student projections. They're actually going to do that in November. They take the student population at the end of the first 30 days, and then they run what their estimated population in their schools is going to be, again, in the 3, 5, and 10-year projections. And Mr. Williams said that they could do that by the end of November, if not December. So at the end of each year, we'll see what the projection is for the following calendar year. And that helps the Planning Commission in making these decisions. And we do get input from the Board of Education, as we do from all the utilities when we review a plan. So any questions about school capacity? And we can, if you don't mind, we can take each one of these and kind of just either vote on them or head nod.
Was there any reason to the changes other than concerns for overcrowding, or was that the gist of it?
Well, like I mentioned in the beginning, the 40 permits per year, and you get those starting as soon as the plan is approved, really wasn't helping to really manage growth in the schools. And of course, everybody promotes the schools as one of the reasons for coming to Oldham County, along with quality of life. So really it was that the schools were starting to see some of the schools get overcrowded. And as a planner, I realized that we don't want to make the same mistake we made when we saw rapid growth, that our infrastructure gets overcrowded because we aren't paying attention. So that was really the reason for looking and reviewing school capacity. So if any questions about school capacity? If not, I'll go on to the next subject. Is that good? The second subject is the landscape regulations. And boy, this one, if I start explaining it, we could go on for a long time. But the bottom line is that our current regulations were very difficult to read. They had a lot of acronyms like PPLB, property perimeter landscape buffer, and every time we had a landscape plan come in, even we that wrote these regulations a long time ago couldn't quite figure out how to put them into play in a particular development. So we went through and made some suggested changes, and for the most part, what was easiest for us to do was look at things. We put in charts. As an example, this made it a lot easier. So if you're required to have certain plant material, if you're required to have 0 to 5 trees, we want to make sure that we have a blend of species, because like the emerald ash borer that got all the ash trees, if you plant too many ash trees, then they're going to potentially die if there's any kind of blight or bugs that affect them. So we made a chart like that for the number of trees. We also looked at the installation and planting standards. And if you're going to plant a large tree, it should have at least an 8-foot wide area to grow in, and the minimum spacing in between each one should be 30 feet based on the canopy. So that was another addition. We put a lot of effort into making sure that, let's see, this one here. This is what I was talking about, the property, the buffer areas. Let me zoom in here. It was really hard to read. There's a chart in our current regulations, and you had to look and see what opacity you had if you were next to a certain type of zoning, and so we made it into a chart that was a little easier to read, that had minimum widths of the landscape buffer areas and the maximum, or the minimum screening height and the minimum number of trees all in one chart. So anybody that was doing a landscape buffer area planting could go to this chart, and it would be a lot easier to read. I'm going to show you this one, and we did realize there was a mistake, and I've handwritten in there. This is a chart for planting requirements in interior landscaping islands. It really is not linear feet, it should be square feet. So that's a minor change, just if it was linear feet, we'd never be able to figure it out, but we were reading it the other day and realized that it should be square footage. So you have a landscape island that has X amount of square feet in it. These are the requirements inside that planting area. And then we also added a section on code enforcement. And if somebody fails to either install or maintain their landscape plan, then we can do code enforcement, and it does include fines. And then I didn't bring it all, but Paul Capiello at Udell Gardens, who of course is one of the best nurserymen or plant people I know, worked with the city of Louisville on a recommended plant list and then a list of plants that were not recommended. And we've added that as an appendix. This is just the first page of it, but we'll have in our regulations the types of plants that actually grow here. We've actually seen landscape plans come in, and Paul has reviewed them and said, that's not even a plant, but somebody put it on the chart. Well, again, because he's helped us here, they can just use this chart to select trees or shrubs. That's a real short version of what we're recommending in the landscape plan.
One question on that.
Sure.
Some of it's in red, redlined, where things have been taken out. I don't see a very clear indication on what has been added.
Anything that, if it's a strike through, it's coming out. Anything that's been added is in red, and really, all these charts I just showed you are part of that. And this particular section of the regulations was very difficult to track the changes. So I hate to say, trust me on this, but we're going to add the parts of it that we're recommending, like, again, these charts, and we're going to take out, and there's not really that much that's being stricken from the language. We'd really have to go through page by page all of the landscape regulations to see, okay, that's what's coming out and that's what's going in, and I can do that if it's important.
Are the plantings and things items that were actually in the previous one, or is this all new?
Some of the dimensions and requirements were, again, the charts were not. They were all done in language. It was just written in paragraphs. So, as an example, how you calculate the interior, that's interior landscape area, and these minimums were already in the regulations. We just pulled them out of text and put them in a chart.
So has any of that been changed? Any of the numbers from the previous?
Well,
I
let's
guess
see.
that's what I'm asking. Kind of a before and after, like your last section?
Yeah, this one was on this particular one, let me just say that it's probably easier to say that this is all new, because then that way you can view it as new rather than, well, like the number of spaces is new because we broke it down a little differently, but this minimum landscape area is the same. So it's a lot easier to just review it. All of the interior landscape areas have a minimum standard of 150 feet, even in the old regs. But it was different. We used the number of parking spaces to have the required amount. I know that's a long explanation, but it's easier, again, to just view this as this is all brand new.
So how much of this is commercial versus residential?
This really is just for commercial.
Okay.
If you have a multifamily use next to a single-family use, there's a landscape requirement, but this is all for commercial.
This whole section is for commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Matter of fact, just for clarification, a single-family house does not have any landscape requirements. Whether it's in a subdivision or whether it's out in the country, single-family houses are exempt. And
Part of the reason I was asking is I wanted to make sure, we weren't going to have code enforcement going down telling somebody to take down a certain kind of tree in their house, on their land, for example. So that's not applicable in here, correct?
code enforcement doing what? I'm sorry. I missed
Going
that.
into a residential property to remove any type of planting or anything like that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Occasionally, we get calls if somebody has a dead tree and it's going over on the neighbor's property, but that's the only time that we would be
But
involved.
not kinds of trees, for
That's
example.
correct.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Back to your chart, the one you had just a minute ago. Is the reason that it starts with 5 to 10, is 5 the minimum, I guess, for a commercial property?
Yeah, you won't see too many commercial properties that have fewer than 5. Sometimes an individual use in a strip center might have less of a requirement, but really the bulk of them probably would be in this 11 to 50 category.
Okay.
Even for an office, it's based on square footage, how many parking spaces you need.
Thank you.
It might apply more to like commercial neighborhoods, so occasionally we'll see where somebody might want to have a rezoning of a house in an area that's growing in commercial. Like in Buckner, there's an area that has a lot of the old houses have been converted, heating and cooling, and in that general area. So if they have 5 spaces, then they would be required to have a landscape area inside it. But that's typically the smaller ones. I know this is an awful lot to go over in a meeting where you're trying to consider approving this, but next subject, if you don't mind, I'll go on to is the short-term rentals. Short-term rental, and what's important to understand here is the definition of a short-term rental. It's a residential dwelling unit that is used and or advertised for rent for transient occupancy, and the dwelling units are typically rented for no more than 30 days. Oh, I'm sorry, if it's more than 30 days, it's a bed and breakfast. Short-term rentals would be less than 30 days. So just like Kleenex is actually a brand of facial tissue, Airbnb is a short-term rental. So it's easier to think of it in terms of Airbnb. That's the most visible name that we can apply. So if people are interested in renting, and right now there are no regulations regarding these short-term rentals. And so in a couple of situations, we've had problems because there's so much turnover and nobody is really looking at the ownership, who the manager might be, how to get a hold of somebody like the owner. So we did a lot of research, and I'll thank Amy Alvey for doing all the research on these short-term rentals, trying to find something that would be applicable to a county like ours and a city like LaGrange. So there are 2 types of short-term rentals. One is owner-occupied. So I live in a house, I've got an extra bedroom, I want to rent it out occasionally for short-term use. And then the other is not owner-occupied, and that's where the property owner does not reside on the property or the principal use. Then we, knowing that, we came up with two terms. One is a host, and that's any person who is the owner of record of residential real property, or any person who is a leasee of residential real property. And the responsible party is anyone, if it's not owner occupied, who lives within 25 miles of the short-term rental. So I own a house, I actually live in Florida, I've got my friend who lives down the street from my house as the responsible party. We, along with this, have made up an actual application, and because the county already adopted the ordinance, we've had one person come in and apply for this short-term rental. It was owner occupied, so that was an easy one. These general provisions, and again, they're lengthy, but I'll spend all the time that you want me going over these. Short-term rentals are allowed in where residential uses are permitted uses, and in zoning districts in which residential uses are permitted, including anyone that might be legally non-conforming because maybe the lot doesn't fit, or like in some places we have commercially zoned property that's occupied as a residence. Short-term rental of the dwelling unit that is not a primary residence of the property owner is required to get a conditional use permit. So the distinction is, if I live on the property and I'm going to have a short-term rental, item number 1 applies, that they can come in and ask for a permit, and we review all the same information for every single one of them, but we can do it on a staff level. If it is not owner occupied, then they would have to go to the Board of Adjustments. So in the case of LaGrange, we'd have to schedule a Board of Adjustments meeting, and they would apply for conditional use. The application is still the same, all the information is still the same, but now the adjoining property owners get noticed, and they would have to come before the board in a public hearing. The reason for that is because now, again, the property owner doesn't reside on the property. And this just lets everybody in the general area know the situation. I'm going to skip over some of these. A person or entity shall operate a short-term rental or advertise a residential property for use as a short-term rental without the owner of the property first having obtained a permit. So we know that there are people who are renting their houses out or their rooms out short-term already, and we're asking them to come in and apply for a permit. Just because they already have one doesn't mean they're grandfathered. We have been working with the tourism board and Kim Buckler to try to identify as many of these as we can. And really the only way to identify them right now is to go on all these websites, and there's more than one. And they're also required to pay the bed tax. And that's been one of the reasons for, not really the reason for doing this. It's a land use issue, not a collection of tax issue, but at least we've said you do have to pay the bed tax. One of the other things that we've provided for is that we have a maximum number of occupants in any unit. The occupancy maximum shall be posted, and the maximum stay should only be 30 days or less. And the occupancy is based on twice the number of sleeping rooms plus 4. So if you're renting out 1 bedroom, twice 1 is 2, and then you can add 4. So the maximum number you could have in that house is 6, because sometimes there's a pull-out couch, or sometimes they have small children that sleep in the same bed or on the floor. And that was actually drawn from a number of different ordinances from bigger cities like Nashville and Louisville. but at least it regulates how many people you can put in any one particular building. The other thing that we have also done is that you can only have one contract at a time. So let's say I actually have 2 rooms that I want to rent as short-term rentals, and I rent to person A this particular weekend. I can't have another contract for the other room with somebody completely different. Person A can rent both of those rooms, but this way you aren't having multiple people coming from different areas. It's kind of like they got to know each other in order to rent those rooms. So you can only have one contract at a time on your property. Somebody couldn't have a whole house that they were renting out and rent it out to 4 or 5 different entities, and next thing you know it, they're arguing about who's using the bathroom. So,
You said short-term is less than 30 days,
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, on the section 260-405, short-term rental property, it states dwelling units rented to the same occupant for more than 30 continuous days.
if you keep reading that, I think it says
Then bed and breakfast establishments, boarding houses, hotels, motels shall not be considered.
right. It should say
But-
less than.
Right.
Right, and then if you have more than 30 days, you can do that in a bed and breakfast or a boarding house. So I'm sorry for that confusion. So another thing we added, and again, I'm really just hitting the highlights here. The permit holder shall be responsible for maintaining proper insurance. Now, we aren't going to be able to police that, but when they actually apply, they have to show us their insurance policy to make sure that that they're covered under liability. Of course, this wouldn't, by giving them a permit, doesn't put us liable at all. But we want to make sure that people who are renting these out have proper insurance. And although that was suggested by an insurance agent, we didn't put that in just because, but he made some good arguments on why we should at least check initially. And then the permits are renewable every year. So if somebody decides to keep renewing their permit, all they have to do is refresh their application. And at that time, we would look for their insurance policy again. So we're going to collect in the application itself. And again, I didn't bring the actual application, but we'll have the name, telephone number, address, email of the host, of the owners, and if it's owner occupied, so I'm coming in to rent rooms in my own house, I have to show proof of that I own the property, and so driver's license, utility bills. That way somebody can't come in and say, oh yeah, I'm going to be owner occupied, but I really live in Florida. We're going to require that they have in their application a floor plan showing the number of bedrooms. So again, we can tell them how many maximum people that they can have. We want to make sure that in the house they show floor plans. We also want to make sure that they aren't in violation of if they're in a subdivision, that there aren't deed restrictions that prohibit them from actually having a short-term rental. So we're asking them to bring in confirmation from the homeowners association that a short-term rental is not deed restricted. This talks about the expiration and renewal of the permit. First of all, obviously you can't do this without registering annually. There is a payment in that renewal fee, and it's not really expensive. It's I forget, it's $100 for the first application and $50 annually. And we didn't put the fees in the ordinance. All of our fees of planning and zoning are adopted separately. That way, if for some reason we wanted to change the fee, we wouldn't have to come back through the zoning ordinance update process.
I think on our paper here, it says 150 for the initial application and 100 for the renewal.
My mistake.
Is that, which
I tried to
is
do it from memory
Oh,
rather than
so
what's
is
on
it
the.
this-
Yep,
it is
I should have
this
been flipping through my pages. Yes, I'm sorry. So again, that's a very, one last thing. just denial or revocation of permit. If for some reason they are in violation of any of the parts of the application, either owner-occupied or not owner-occupied, and have a conditional use, if they're in violation, we can revoke their permits. So that's quickly through short-term rentals. Any questions?
A couple questions. How in this, is it different than B&Bs in this situation? For example, boarding houses, I know there's a definition difference, but generally speaking.
Bed and breakfast actually serves breakfast, short-term rentals don't. Short-term rentals, excuse me, they can provide space in the refrigerator, and a person might, or the people renting might be able to cook themselves. But when you provide breakfast at a bed and breakfast, you have to have the health department inspect your kitchen. And if you're just allowing them to use the kitchen, and typically people that are owner occupied don't allow them to use the kitchen, then you don't have to have those inspections.
Like,
So the owner is not providing any food.
then how's it different from motels that don't provide breakfast?
Well, motels, there's no limit on how long you can stay.
Okay, so if it's 30 days, it's considered potentially a bed and breakfast. If it's 29 days, it's considered a short-term rental? Just for
Only
1
if
day
you don't
difference?
serve breakfast, right.
Okay.
So typically, when you go to a bed and breakfast, you might stay just the weekend. That doesn't make it a short-term rental because, again, they're providing breakfast.
And in terms of what these other establishments have to do, what hoops they have to run through, or payments they have to make, how is that different than what's proposed for the short-term rentals?
Payments as in the bed tax?
Any fees, any taxes, and anything?
Well, in a short-term rental, typically when you rent, you're on the internet, and the whoever it is, and I'll just use Airbnb because, again, that's the simple example. Airbnb collects the fees. Now, in Oldham County, we don't have an agreement with Airbnb for collection of taxes or the bed tax. So that's done by the owner, whoever is renting that property. That's why it's been hard for us to go. And in the news recently, in the past 2 months, Airbnb has made agreements with the bigger cities that collect the taxes to collect the bed tax as well. But we're actually having to send notice to everybody and tell them that they have to at least fill out the annual form. And some people put their property on Airbnb and never rent it. They just have an idea, let's go ahead and post it, but then they never actually either get anybody to rent it or they don't pursue it. So it's only the ones that actually have somebody come and spend time at their house that have to pay that tax.
Okay.
And the Tourism Commission is going to be the one who makes sure that they reach out, and then all of the taxes sent to the county treasurer, at least in Oldham County. I don't know if they would send it to you differently or not, to the city. You don't collect it.
How do
So
you keep track of this, of like who or what is a short term? Like, how do you know that someone is renting short term unless they come forward and tell you?
And they either come forward, we get a complaint, or again, it's the honor system. I'll get that. A lot of people thought when we were creating this ordinance, we were trying to encourage people to be short-term rentals. Well, we knew that there were actually people that had rented out their house. You know, Derby's the famous one, or a PGA, but there are quite a few that are on these websites that have their properties listed. So really now it's a matter of kind of reaching out to them, those that don't register and get permits, and saying, okay, some of them they're paying their bed tax. So we will say, all right, you really don't have a permit, so file the permit. So really, it's to level the playing field for everybody that does the rentals.
So it would be mostly those that advertise their properties for rent? Or otherwise you wouldn't know?
Yes.
Right.
And the only way you find that out is by going on the website and typing in a zip code and saying, I want to rent, make believe you're a renter, to find out where they are. And Kim Buckler has been doing that, to try to come up with a master list of all of them that are out there.
I don't imagine, is there many within the city of LaGrange that,
You know, I didn't really look myself to see how many, but there's something like 45 throughout the county.
Jim, is this application fee, is that in lieu of a business license tax, or how is that differing from that?
That's just our application fee. If they need a business license, they would also have to get that from the city.
It doesn't include a business license?
It does not.
Do we know if these people are going to be required to get a business license? Has that been discussed?
Well, we didn't discuss it in the study review committee. That would be up to the city to determine whether or not they needed one.
Yeah, I know the answer to that question, but what is the purpose of these fees? $150 and then $100?
Well, we're going to verify their information, so it's really basically trying to cover the cost of staff reviewing the information and issuing a permit. And then we then transfer that information both to the Tourism Bureau and the county clerk's office to make sure that the taxes are collected. We won't collect the tax ourselves.
So would this apply to just somebody whose family might be coming in town for a period of time, staying there, and just wanted to maybe pay them a little bit of money for staying there? Would this be applicable?
I'm going to answer no. If they're advertising it on one of the short-term rental websites, then yes. So if they're advertising it and family comes in and they charge them, then I guess theoretically they should be paying the permit fee, getting a permit. But if they're not advertising, they can stay. It's kind of hard to regulate when somebody's just visiting versus coming from out of town and
Right.
paying a fee to stay.
Sure. And do B&Bs and boarding houses and things, do they also have to pay a application fee such as this?
Well, bed and breakfast have a separate conditional use requirement, and there's a fee involved in filing that conditional use permit and then going through that process. But after that, they don't have to do an annual fee because they have a conditional use permit.
You know how much their initial fee is?
For a conditional use for a
The
bed and breakfast, it's
yeah.
$500.
All right, thank you.
But then that goes with the land. So if somebody has a bed and breakfast and they sell the property and somebody new comes and owns it, that bed and breakfast has a conditional use for as long as it's in operation, regardless of ownership.
my thoughts on this, the ordinance committee, we have actually, for the past few months, have been discussing with our code enforcement officer a property rental agreement for the city itself. So by doing this, my concern is taking away money, revenue that would come to the city that would be going to the county, because the citizens already pay a lot of taxes to the county and don't necessarily get all the services that, you know, a lot of their surrounding people get.
All we were proposing is to just have a registry of who owns the property. We're not touching anything with regards to
Oh, but it was
renting
gonna-
within your house.
No, oh, I know that, but weren't we discussing just like a $5, $10 registration fee just to get the owner's information?
This is
Yes,
even more than
but
that.
that's for, I think
Was-
that's
or
just like,
was-
that's for like people who are actually setting up a residence in a home to live there, like like a home is being rented. It's like similar to the gentleman that was here earlier.
So this is only for 30 days or less on this, but what about the future of LaGrange? Like, say if we get bed and breakfast within the city of LaGrange, you know, are we gonna be able to?
I would imagine they have to pay a business license within the city of LaGrange, but we don't
And then the
collect any type
taxes.
of bed tax on the hotels that are here. That's all county. So that doesn't even pertain to us at the
Right, and
moment.
it goes to tourism.
Right.
So that tax would still go to tourism. I think you're talking about the fees to
I'm
register
talking about
and get
the
a permit.
registration fees, yeah, they do the
Yeah.
150 and the 100.
But I don't think that
150 and
pertains to-
$100, and we were talking
Because
lower.
because these have owners on site, on premises. we're talking about when somebody, like you rented a home up the street from me, and that person who owns that home, if the ordinance we're discussing had been in place, they would have been required to have their name and address and phone number and contact
Right.
information on file with the city hall office.
Right, but that's not what this one is.
Right, I know.
Not
No.
what this is, right?
Correct.
I think you're talking
They're
about.
two different things.
Like the person that was here during public comment, you have people who are renting apartments, and they call us
Right.
on a regular basis and say, my stove doesn't work, the faucets are dripping, the screen door is broken, and the owners won't fix it. Can you help us? And if you have a registry of owners.
Right, that's what we're
Yeah.
proposing, but that doesn't have any effect on what you're doing.
That's correct,
Right.
yeah, this is different. Yeah, this is again just for that Airbnb kind of operation. And if you all want to take the application for inside the city of LaGrange and process it and set your own fees, you're welcome to do that. I think what's important here is that this is a land use category that is currently happening, and we don't have any kind of standards for it. So if inside the city limits, you'd prefer to take those applications yourself, we can refer them to you. We can give you the application that we made up. You can put it on your own letterhead, collect the application fee. I mean, if that's what you want to do. And that way, at least, again, everybody is on the same playing field with the short-term rental.
Could you explain, maybe you did touch on this, but let's say I have one of these and I just decide I'm not going to do this or apply for the application. What would be, I guess, the steps? I guess I see this is more about the nuisance portion, what you've got on the screen. But what would happen in that scenario? As far as
They are doing it but don't have a permit. Again, it's if we find that they have a
And-
website, we're going to
yeah.
reach out to them. If they're on one of the short-term rental websites, if they're doing it and there is noise, some kind of nuisance, code enforcement would be involved. And typically we try to mitigate whatever the issue might be. And if it's that they're going to continue operating as a short-term rental, then they have to apply once we catch them doing it. Again, it's not completely on the honor system because we're going to go work with the Tourism Commission to try to find out the owners of all of these and compel them to come in and get applications filled out.
the only reason I was kind of asking was just the expiration portion on letter D, where it says it expires on the 31st of December.
Yes.
So if I had a property and I was gonna rent it out for New Year's or something, I'm just saying hypothetically, and for a couple of days prior to the new year, and I was like, well, what's the incentive for that particular owner to come in and get the application, then it expires a couple of days later, and then they have to do it again?
We can prorate that
Prorate
if
it.
it's late
Okay.
in the year, yes.
Okay, that's what I was hoping.
Or we can always put that it expires a year from that
Year
date.
past.
If they come in November and by the time we issue a permit, they only have a month left, we can always date it that it goes through the next year.
Okay, I just wouldn't want that to be a deterrent for those folks that are wanting to do that, and then they're like, well, I'm gonna have to turn around and do it again.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
With my comment, I was just basically trying to stick up for the city here. I just feel like the county is always, dollar in and dime in the city. And, like we give away half of our compensation tax. And so now, the county's coming in and doing this, and then the citizens are going to be paying or, more money to the county. And I just feel like we're always giving and giving to the county. And we don't get anything back for it, basically, because we have our own police, we have our own fire, trash, water, sewer. So what are the citizens paying taxes to the county for when we already provide all these services and we still keep giving the county money? That's my,
Well,
My
and
thoughts
I'm,
on it.
like I said,
Right.
the city can manage the application themselves. If
Mm-hmm.
you think that you want to do that, we'll give you the form that we have. You can put it on your own letterhead. They're really $150, and then every year another $100. If you got 3 of these a year, that might be all you get. I don't really know how many are in the city itself. All the other compensation tax, I have nothing to do with, so I can't answer that question. Other than, again, the $150, we will have to review the information that they submit each time they come in. And, you know, we anticipated that it could be easily 2 hours in making sure that the application is filled out correctly and verifying information. So, but if the city wants to take those in, we can refer them to you.
Jim, one more question. And just in general, what is the reason, I guess, for even trying to regulate this and to, you know, make these people pay anything, particularly those who might have done this previously and have had no issues? It just almost seems like here's an additional $250 or 150, whatever it is, to add to all of the other county fees, all of the other city fees, and everything else, the taxes that the residents have to pay. And that's just my personal opinion, obviously, but.
Well, again, it's a current land use. Short-term rentals is happening all over the United States and all over the world. You can go to Europe and stay in an Airbnb. We have no standards for that. We're trying to make a level playing field so that everybody, first of all, operates under the same provisions. And then, most importantly, in my mind, is the collection of the information so we don't have these situations where there are parties and we don't know how to get a hold of the person responsible. So if they have an application and either the owner lives there or their responsible party lives within 25 miles, if there is an incident, something happens, or we have to take enforcement action, we know who to contact.
But aren't we dealing with that via property taxes, PVA information, and isn't the information available?
Well, it's the same that your ordinance committee is dealing with in rental property. Try to find who the you have to get somebody like the guy that was here at public comment to come in and tell you what the phone number is, because you can't find the management company. So it's similar in that nature. And we did have one in the north side of the county years ago that the person lived in Russia. How do you contact a person in Russia? And we just kept sending certified mail and certified mail and certified mail, and finally one of them made it through to him.
But aren't we doing that with property taxes? We're getting a hold of these people and they're paying their property taxes. How would that not be done the same way?
Well,
As far
you
as
have
knowing
to
what
ask the
information
Tourism
they have.
Commission that, because we don't collect the taxes on this. So I'm sorry, I don't know that,
Okay.
that answer. Again, we're just trying to set a standard for operating and coordinate so that everybody, if somebody is collecting money for short-term rentals, that they're paying their fair share of the bed tax. We can come back to these subjects. If you don't mind, I'll go on to the height restrictions. Currently in our zoning ordinance, in the commercial zoning, we have a 45-foot height limitation. And what we're recommending is in the higher commercial zoning classification, that's C2, C3, and C4, that we go from 45-foot maximum to 60-foot maximum, so increasing it 15 feet. So I'm going to give you 2 examples why we're doing this. Up behind the Walgreens and Burger King, there's a proposed hotel. And when they brought in their plans for their building, between the 4 floors, and people have said 6 floors, there's 4 floors and a parapet, it was 54 feet tall. So they had to get a variance. And I think everybody would encourage a 4-story hotel to locate in Oldham County. Rawlings Group, they have 3 stories, but their stories are 14 feet each, not 10 feet. So between their 3 stories at 14 feet and then the top of their building, they're right at 44 feet. So if they tried to do a 4-story building, they'd have to get a variance. So in the higher order commercial zoning, we thought it was appropriate to add on another 15 feet, which if you were going to build single-story housing, they might be 8-foot ceilings only, but typically with commercial especially, between your HVAC, plumbing, and your electrical, they're usually more like 10 to 12 feet in between stories. So we see that this would help in anybody who was doing up to a 4-story building wouldn't need any variances. So that's our recommendation, pretty simply there, is to increase it to 60 feet from 45. And then the last subject matter is in the subdivision regulations, Article number 3. We had a lot of inconsistencies that were written into it, and we tried to clean those up, and this was one of them. For the most part, and I'm going to kind of combine a couple of these things, when you look at the process of getting approval of a preliminary plan, then construction plans, then go to construction, and then go to record, it used to say that you had to do that, a final plats had to be recorded within 6 months, and we changed that to a year because it takes longer than that just to develop your construction plans and construct the roads before you go to record. We also found that there was a statement that said final plat shall be submitted for review and approval within 3 years of preliminary plan approval. And again, sometimes not all final plats are done within that period, so we just struck it out. We had some, this was a statement that was in step number 5, which was preparation and submittal of final plat. It basically said that you had to do everything in 3 years. So I used Hillcrest as an example. There's 400 houses in Hillcrest, and the way this was written, after you got approval, you had 3 years to build the entire development. We know that that doesn't happen because we're only going to issue 35 building permits per year. So we struck all that out, and that the timing of all this is just dependent on the continuation of going through construction plan approval and record plat on each phase. Mayor, I can keep going on this, but I think that's really all I care to explain. The rest of it is really administrative and helping us to manage how subdivision plans get through the approval process. So that's the 5 subject matters. And I'm, again, happy to go back to any one of the other subjects or ask for your consideration in adopting, or actually this is public comment if anyone is here that wants to speak regarding these proposed changes.
I'm curious to know, is this an all or nothing approval, or are we?
Everybody else has done it all or nothing. Smile. You do not have to do it all or nothing. If there's something in particular that LaGrange is interested in, there are some provisions in the zoning ordinance that are for LaGrange only already. None of these are being recommended just for LaGrange, but if you wanted to change something, we would write it in the zoning ordinance as LaGrange only. You can delete or add if you care to.
What's the next portion you're all gonna redo?
Well, we have to go back to the school capacity ordinance and go over how we handle multifamily. There's a proposed project in Crestwood, and that's where we kind of discovered, well, if we issue 35 permits, they can do it all in 1 year. So we have to find standards for that. Another thing that we're going to look at is the distillery business, and bourbon is booming in this region. And currently you have to have industrial zoning for both a distillery and for rick houses. And so we're going to consider whether or not we change that. In Henry County, they just changed the rick houses to agricultural with a conditional use. And we have been researching that subject matter. There are a few other smaller subjects, and we haven't been to the SRC in quite some time because we've been short-staffed, so I can't remember what they are. But Once we finalize these last few pieces, then we'll be back here one more time, and then we're gonna actually
And you know
format.
why I'm asking this question, because I'm wanting to know when you're gonna get to the subdivisions are built, you know, because I want, you know, my pet peeve is,
The length of the driveway.
right, the length of the driveway.
Yep, and parking in that driveway over the sidewalk.
Right.
My pet peeve as well.
That's why I was asking what the next section you're gonna be working on.
That will be part of it. That's actually in our subdivision regulations,
Right.
so, but we'll get to that.
Jim, one last question. I know I asked about the fees and everything on the one section. Are there any other fees and taxes associated with any of the other three sections of your proposals?
Well, there's already fees for when you bring in a landscape plan for the review of a landscape plan. Those aren't changing at all with the revised regulations, and.
Yeah, I meant new fees. I'm sorry, I may have misspoke, but any new items of taxes or fees and things?
No, just on the short-term rentals.
And then when you mentioned leveling the playing field earlier, were you just referring to other cities that are actually charging fees and taxes and things of that nature for such short-term rentals, and so we want to do the same to be like they are and get that money from the individuals? Is that what you're suggesting?
We weren't motivated by either fees or taxes. Again, we don't collect any taxes. Planning and zoning only collects fees, and the fee is only for the application. We are really seeing the short-term rental as a land use, and that leveling the playing field makes it the same for everyone who wants to do that particular land use. It has nothing to do with collecting a fee. It has nothing to do with us collecting the taxes, although the Tourism Commission does have a 1% bed tax, 2%, whatever it is. I can't remember. Again, I'm not involved in that. We don't, I'm gonna say, we don't care about the taxes. We do in terms of equal collection of it, but we don't collect those taxes. In the case of short-term rentals, it's the Tourism Commission.
Did I see something where Louisville went through this last year or something, or didn't they?
They did.
They did.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It took them, like us, a couple of years to get one passed, but all the cities are looking at short-term rentals.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you. And
Okay.
again, Mayor, this is a public hearing, so if anybody else wants to speak.
Right.
I'd like to speak on behalf of the short term. As far as economic development in downtown, we are speaking to some people who would like to start doing that. And the reason behind it is, yes, you'll be getting your business license from that. But tourism, we get benefits from tourism dollars also. They bring people to our county and to our city every year, and they spend money downtown. And what happens is the businesses, the bed and breakfasts that have already been working very hard are now being undercut by these other rentals. So that was where the tourism came in. They wanted to be able to make sure that playing field was level too. Because plus, now, when we know that they exist, they can be advertised and promoted. So it's not like they don't get anything for their money. You know, they get the benefit of thousands of dollars of advertising. I think tourism's budget's over $100,000. And so they get the benefit of that power too. So it's not just something that there's an arbitrary fee. And it does help us, especially as we promote more and more about the train, you know, the idea of people being able to come and stay right next to the tracks even, you know, or some of the things that we're looking at. So that would be my feeling on that and the reason behind all of that, and maybe that will help with that.
My only concern, I think, that, and it's kind of a hang up on this issue, but I think that fee is just excessive. That's all. I mean, he's talking about a stamp and a little bit of work to verify something, and $150 just seems excessive. And I think, we are taxed. We have so many fees as a society here in this city that just seems excessive and just continues to add on to. And I don't mean to point that out or point the finger just at that, but every time there's another fee, another tax, it's just a small amount, but it adds up. And every time the residents look at their bills, they're seeing these things and just keep adding up. So that's my position on that. But thank you.
You're welcome. But it's also, just to put it in, it's to help the neighbors also. So now that they'll get information, they'll be able to get help along the way to make sure that their neighbor is thought of when you rent out your house. Because it's really easy just to see the fact that I can get another $1,000 a month because by renting out a room. But you have to remember that the people that next to you pay those taxes also, and they need to have some type of protection and know that somebody's looking over and watching that.
Sorry, what other taxes are you referring to? I don't think I understood what you were.
Your neighbors pay their property tax.
Sure.
And so they deserve to have some protection there also. So when you register, then someone is taking time to make sure that there's going to be a good neighbor policy that's given to those folks, so they understand that they need to treat the people living next door fairly also.
But the people that have short-term rentals that we're talking about an additional fee already pay property taxes, same as their neighbors, correct?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure I understood your question. Thank you.
Anything else? All right.
Anybody else want to come forward in public comment? Public hearing? Make a motion, we go out our public hearing for somebody. Make a motion.
Motion to come out of public hearing.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Is there any discussion among your council? Now we got a motion and a section. Second, you want to do a roll call, Stephanie?
Jason,
I'm okay with 3 of the sections, but I guess otherwise I have to vote no.
Shannon,
Kind of feel the same way. I'm okay with all but one. I just need a little more thought on the other one. If we could maybe table it so we could all discuss it. Because I will be honest, my concern is I think it's a great idea. We do need a way to track all this. However, I'm just looking out for the city, so that's my reason for not voting yes right now.
so that's a no.
So, or I could abstain, huh?
Motion to table?
Trey,
I didn't.
I'm going to say no at this time.
Jean? No also. Ann,
Yes.
Tad,
Yes.
4 no, 2 yes.
If I might, so I just need clarification on how to proceed. I do want to say this, and I say it with a lot of respect, but you have had this for months. We have had many public meetings, and nobody has ever called our office and asked any questions. And I'm just surprised that there are no votes because of a situation or issue that could have been discussed before this meeting. I'll wait for your advice on how to proceed.
Tim, I went on a number of Airbnb websites. I started reading this online back in February when it came out and researched it all and started going online looking at Airbnbs. I didn't find any listed within the city of LaGrange, period, of all of my research. So it hadn't really affected the city. I don't think, I don't see how it possibly can. I could be wrong, but the research I did, that's my opinion on it, so.
Sure. Yep. Well, I'll wait for your advice on how to proceed, because, the other components of this will be hanging in, kind of in limbo, if you will. The school capacity, height standards. If you didn't have any concerns with those, you might reconsider approving just those sections if it's only the short-term rental. Because especially with residential and the school capacity, we are seeing new developments come in, so.
I completely agree. I am all for that. And like I said, with the short-term rental agreement, I think that's a great idea. I think that part is something that the city needs to, I think, do themselves. Because for the future vision of LaGrange, I can see what Karen was talking about, us being able to have short-term rentals all along Main Street, short-term rentals, extending the, downtown over a little bit. And I can see that for the future of LaGrange, a lot of people wanting to come in. And I think by us doing something like this with the county, it basically takes away again from what, from the city. And I feel like we need to protect and look out for the city.
Well, and I'm sorry, I've explained twice, the city can take these applications in if you want to adopt this.
So we can
don't-
adopt this, and then the application fees will come
You
to,
can set your own permit application. I'm willing to give you all that because we have it. It might as well be uniform. We've created it. If you want to take in the applications and manage them, you're welcome to. You do
They'd
that
be
with-
sent to us just like business license, right?
Well, business licenses and even sign permits.
Right.
Code enforcement does sign permit applications and issues the permits.
because I'm looking at the future, like say if we do the, like what Karen, people come in and start opening up these short-term rental properties and say we get 10, $1,000, $1,500. I mean, not a lot in a year's time, but still, that's a little bit, that's going to the city and not necessarily to the county.
Well, and if, Mr. Taylor, if you wanted to change those fees, then you could do that. You could make them less.
I'm open to doing that if you want to I mean, I have no problem with the other three issues if we take them individually right now. I mean, and if those fees were significantly reduced, my vote would be different. So I don't know how you all want
So-
to address
so could
that.
we
Here's,
do
here's my
that?
concern, is this gonna hold any projects up that we got going in the city?
For the short term, he said there's only one right now that's came forward with that, right?
That's in the county,
Or
actually.
in the county.
yes.
So there's
Yes.
no one in the city right now. So this is not going to affect anyone in the city.
I'm not talking about the short term, I'm talking about
The other ones.
other-
the other three, yes.
Yeah.
And I think we're all okay with that. So if there's a way that we could, get through these okay and then maybe adopt, let the city adopt the short-term rental agreement.
So, if you're willing to do that, then what you would be considering, and this one has red on the height, but that's just the first one I came to. What you would be considering adopting is, Division 270-080 school capacity standards, Division 300 landscape regulations, maximum height regulations. I can't remember what division that's in, but I can look it up. That's just adding up to 60 feet. And then Article 3 of the subdivision regulations. We would just strike from the vote the short-term rental.
Do we just need to have a motion?
Need to amend the motion, I guess, from the first one.
Well, you had a motion and you voted on it and it was denied, so it would be a brand
A
new
new
motion.
motion.
Not trying to play Steve here, but.
I mean,
I'll make a motion that we pass the Oldham County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance and Subdivision Regulations update with the exception of the short-term rental property portion.
I'll second.
Could we address the other one next month,
6405.
though? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Which is section 26405, right?
We haven't named it yet. I don't, maybe it's in the ordinance. I don't have a copy of the ordinance, so, yeah, because we're
On that
going to
one.
reformat it. So it's
26405.
405 was the number we gave for short-term rentals, because it's a brand-new section.
what's your question?
What was the motion, first of all? The motion was to pass the
The motion
other
was
three?
to accept the Oldham County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance updates with the exception of the short-term rental property portion.
Okay, and my comment was, if we proceed accordingly, will this be addressed again next month? Will the planning commission reconsider the fee amounts and bring that back to us?
The fees are not in the ordinance. Again, those, even our building permit fees are separate from ordinances. We don't change them regularly, matter of fact, hardly at all. But if for some reason, like we increased about 2 years ago, the minimum permit fee was $35 and we raised it to $50.
Okay.
That way we didn't have to do it by ordinance. We actually went to fiscal court and asked them to consider approving it, and they did. So fees are outside of. You could actually approve, if you don't have any issues with the content of the short-term rentals, you could approve that and then just make a separate motion that you all want to take in those applications, and you can set that fee at a later date. If you like the short-term rental part of the regulations. If you want to just hold that in abeyance, you can.
My issue is with a fee. I don't know if other people have that same issue. I know I don't necessarily think it's in the best interest of the city to take over this issue. But as to the other three aspects that we were talking about, other than short-term rentals, I have no issue with a motion that has now been made by Trey, if we want to proceed with that.
And I'm sorry, Mayor, can I just clarify? It also includes Article 3. So there are really 4 pieces of this: school capacity, landscape regs, maximum height, and then the subdivision regs.
Yeah, that's what her
Except for the short-term.
her motion is, just striking the short-term rental, correct? And then it's been seconded.
Jason?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Trey?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Tad? 6-0.
Mayor, Council, thank you for indulging me on that. I just didn't know which direction to go, given the other ones. I knew it sounded like you wanted to approve, so I appreciate that. Willing to, if you want me to come to the ordinance committee meeting, if that's where you want to address this.
Yeah, I think that would be best. We haven't yet set a date for that, the next one. I don't know if we want to just go ahead and do that real quick, since we're into old new business at this point.
Is that where we're at, Mayor? Old new business?
Yes, we ready for old business, new business.
Okay. I'll propose July 25th. When it's a Wednesday for the ordinance committee meeting.
For me, I'm
Acceptable.
okay.
What time?
We've been 5:30. Is that what we've been doing? 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock is fine. Is that acceptable for
Yes. 6 o'clock, July 25th?
6 o'clock, July 25th at City Hall? Thank you.
25th at 6.
Yes, sir.
Alrighty. Anything else? Old business, new business?
I would like to just make a statement, apologize for getting here so late. Just want to apologize for getting here so late. I was in Moorhead at a funeral all day. I didn't think I'd get here at all, but I do apologize for arriving so late.
I just have one more thing here. I meant to bring this up at the beginning. We were talking about financials, but I just wanted to mention something. There's one of the receipts here for imprint. It looks like it may be things set up for Oldham County Day. Okay. Okay, well, that's fine. I think it's a great idea to get these things, but I just wanted to mention, I wasn't sure if, I know we do have new staff in City Hall, and it looks like she may be the one that ordered this, but these things that are on here, like the bills, like 2,527, I'm not sure if she's aware, but we do have a local company within the city of LaGrange who does this. And I've actually had some things done with them, and it's actually half this price. And it's local too. They live in the city and their business is in the city, so. Mhm. Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to let you know, because there is someone local that can give us better prices than this. Noteworthy Creations,
Yeah, we use them a lot. Yeah.
Make a motion for executive session 61.810 deliberations on future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency.
Do we need city attorney for that?
Think-
You don't? Okay.
Do what? No.
No. I'll second if it wasn't seconded.
Got a motion second, all in favor for executive session?
Aye.
Shouldn't be long. Okay. Thank you, Jim, for your time. Who we missing? We need a motion to go out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, go out of executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.